in 2 years. And 1 year, 6 months, you have not started. How will you start in the last 6 months? And you're not supposed to ask a question because the contract is alive. I think this is what Senator Olekina wanted to cure when he brought this particular bill. I've spoken about this. This is 18.6. The county executive committee member shall avail, and the use of the word shall is very critical, shall avail the senator with pertinent information. It's not a request. If I want information on anything, this is a public entity, on anything, any project, any program, any government program, including, Madam Speaker, you know, we have had a challenge, even getting to know the prayer breakfast of the national prayer breakfast, how much was spent by either parliament, the national government. Nobody knows how much was spent. Prayer breakfast, you're even hiding money that you are using to pray. You're just talking to God, you don't want to know, you don't want us to know how much you spent when you wanted to speak to God. I mean, Madam Speaker, these are things that should be so straightforward. And I think they should be, and I think 19 also speaks about these documents being availed to the members of public. This is also something else that I was able to pick. The clerk of the Senate may provide such logistical support as necessary. Madam, maybe I would want you to move an amendment, Senator Olekina, so that you don't leave it as a prerogative of the clerk of the Senate to either offer or not. Because when you say that may offer, he may choose not to. He may start with Kiambu. Or Wajir is so far, and it should be the clerk of the Senate shall provide. It should be his obligation to support senators as they carry out their oversight role. Maybe finally, Senator Olekina, as we think about the miscellaneous provisions that are here, I have seen that there are regulations that will be moved by the county executive committee member. And one of them, notwithstanding the generality of subsection 1, the CEC member may make regulations on the processes related to the management and implementation of the project. It is here that I would want us to be a bit careful, so that they also don't process regulations that will claw back the gains that we have gotten, because they may put things in the regulations that do not make it easy for us to know the management and the processes in the implementation of projects. In fact, this is very critical, Senator Olekina, because these regulations are speaking about implementation. This is where the crust of this matter would be cured. If we want to play very, very active oversight, it should be in the implementation of projects. So therefore, it should be an open book on how we can be able to see, we can be able to view implementation of projects. It should not be, if a CC now, for example, Senator Olekina, as it has been provided here, what if a CC now says in the regulation that this information will only be provided after the completion certificate of that project has been issued, then we shall have lost the
30 seconds. 30 seconds. You're actually spending your 30 seconds.
Just 1 minute. I know Senator Morango wants to also speak a lot of wisdom, Madam Speaker. These miscellaneous provisions, Madam Speaker, is something that we must look, so that we don't claw back on all the gains that have been made in this particular bill, so that we don't also donate so much powers again to the CEC after we have won freedom, then we won't curtail ourselves with this issue on regulations. I want to stop it at that. Thank you.
Senator Professor Kamara.
I'm not getting the microphone. Okay, thank you, Madam Speaker, for the opportunity. I've gone through this bill. Unfortunately, I don't support it in the format it's in. I do not support it, Madam Speaker, because it is completely changing the spirit of Article 96 of the Constitution. What this bill has done, it is confessing that it is following, it's unpacking Article 96. But when you go to Article 96, it talks of the role of the Senate. This bill is talking about the role of an elected senator. We need to be very clear what it is we are looking for. Is this bill supposed to take care of the oversight fund that has already come into this House,
which we had said we need to deal with, or it is dealing with oversight? So my beginning point is the title of the bill. Is this county oversight?
I don't know how county oversight and accountability comes in first to begin with, because if it is county oversight, we need to address county oversight. Accountability is a different animal. Accountability should be part of what we are doing. So when we talk of, and I really appreciate the details that the two members have brought in, but I want them to think through. If we are talking about county oversight, let's go to the Constitution and look at the role that was given to this House and the role that was given to the MCS. Because I see this bill bringing a potential conflict between. If you look at what the role of Senate in Article 96 says, it says the Senate will represent counties and serve to protect interests. The Senate will participate in lawmaking. It will determine the allocation of national revenue. The Senate will participate in oversight. The Senate. But when we have gone to this bill, we have broken it into the individual senators. In fact, I was looking at this at, if you look at Article 16 of the proposal that we have been given on oversight, Article 1 says that the Senate shall pursuant to Article 96 of the Constitution exercise oversight. But Senator Olekina, when you go to sub-Article 2, you go to each senator shall exercise power of oversight over their respective counties, which means each elected senator. So let's come out. If it is each elected senator, let's call it each elected senator, so that we now look for the animal that will take care of the other senators who are not elected. I've been elected, I'm nominated, and I'm talking in a neutral, from a neutral ground. That you cannot talk of oversight being done by a senator. The reason, and we have had this, I wish the senator of Samburu was here, because we had a very rough time in our committee today when the governor of Samburu came. And that is when I saw oversight must be done according to this constitution. But to have Senator Ledama to go to Narok alone, to have the Senator of Samburu to go to Samburu alone, he will not succeed. That is when you hear of goons fighting between. Exercise the power of oversight. We have been exercising it. We didn't need a bill to do this. It is part of what we are doing. But what does the Constitution confer? The Constitution confers the power of oversight to the House. And then the House has committees. If you look at the chapter that deals with committees, it says this House shall operate through committees. And I'm asking my dear brother Olekina, committees vis-a-vis an individual person, and find it wise as he looks at the amendments we wish to introduce, give you better service than an individual. I say this because I was elected, Madam Speaker. When I was elected, I was able to oversight my governor through the committees of this House, not through an individual, but information. I got a lot of information. My Senate office was getting information from the CECs and wherever. I never interacted with the CEC. Why should I interact with the CEC? My own staff, who are equal to the CEC, will interact with the CEC. And once they have interacted, they bring information to my office. They tell me this is the area that is weak. I ask a question in this house. I did 2 petitions, which were very successful. The first petition blocked the governor from buying a building that the public said was actually had a figure that was higher than the figure. This house did a wonderful job for me because it was the committee that went in, analyzed, went through the projects. I'm saying this to save ourselves because I think the problem is that we might actually put ourselves, just because we are thinking about this little money of oversight, we might say to protect the elected and leave the nominated. We need to ask ourselves, is that what we want to do? Number 2, if you look at that, there shall be openness and accountability over the county budget oversight process. Why should you even go beyond that? Why do you want to be accountable to a fund that you are using directly? It is an expense to send your people to go and collect data. Why are we looking like we don't want to be suspected? We again think it is good to reread and see how we can do. We'll be introducing our own amendments to take care of that. Then Article 17 has concentrated on this senator. A senator may facilitate public participation. Let's go to the issue of public participation. My brother Olekina, public participation is going on. Currently, before there is published every 5 years, massive public participation takes place. Even as nominated, I went to 3 wards to know if actually we are doing the right thing and giving people what they want. That is public participation number 1. According to the Constitution, you must have a CIDP, and once you have had your CIDP, you must have annual plans. When the annual plan, an annual plan is an extract for that year, and hopefully the county has 5 annual plans, which they don't declare. They declare annually what they are going to do. And once they have declared annually what they are going to do in the year, that is what they will follow. But are we going to have a diversion from the annual? Because that is what will protect individual conflicts between a senator and a governor. Now, if you go further, Article 15, I know I'm going zigzag, I'm coming backwards. The officer shall prepare an annual report on the status of public finances in the respective county set out with the following information. Currently, the Comptroller of Budget does that, not annual, but monthly. I used to get, as a senator, monthly reports on my county, and my senator was here. I wanted to know whether he's still receiving that, because we used to receive, but the other senators must be receiving. If we are receiving that from the Comptroller of Budget, is this bill not going to be in conflict with the role of the Comptroller of Budget? Because the role of the Comptroller of Budget is to monitor. So if we allocate ourselves the role of monitoring, the way the budget flow will be, what will the role of the Comptroller of Budget? Again, let's read the Comptroller of Budget's role before we even look at the role of the Auditor General. Because I looked at some of the clauses and I think we might step on the toes of the Auditor General. So I Madam Speaker, with all due respect to my colleagues that are proposed, I like the oversight. We must protect it through a law. We must have a bill. But I want to persuade Senator Olegina that let's relook at this in relation to what is existing and the roles that we cannot change. But more than anything, please let us not take the role of the Senate to individual senators. Let the Senate committee, I looked, unless I did not see, I was looking for a mention of the Senate committee in this bill. Because the Constitution has not talked about the senator. It had officers to the Senate itself. So there is no mention, unless it is in an article that I have not seen. Why would we not have a mention of the committees of this House? The committees of this House are very powerful. They have been given the power even to arrest. We are told that they are given the powers of the High Court. If they have the powers of the High Court, will an individual senator have the powers of the High Court? I ask that loudly, Madam Speaker. Will the individual, or we are trying to, or we'll expose ourselves? I'm looking for a way in which we are not exposing individuals, but we are dealing with what the Constitution gave the Senate as an institution. So, Senator Olegina, I like the intention of the bill. But as much as I like the intention of the bill, I would really like to say, let's avoid conflict with MCS, let's avoid conflict with anybody, even the executive, let's avoid conflict with the comptroller of budget, let us avoid conflict with the Auditor General. Let's remove the conflicts and let's allow ourselves to run as a Senate. As a Senate that must do oversight as per the Constitution, Article 96, which this bill is trying to unpack. I was going to be brief because there are a few things that I wish could be corrected beforehand, but I'll prepare my articles because I was a little also confused when it came to the annual infrastructural document, but I want to understand that one more because I don't want to touch on anything that I have not fully understood. With those remarks, Madam Speaker, I have reservations, and I would like my reservations to be addressed before I support this bill. Thank you.
Senator Morango.
Asante sana Mstahiki Spika kwa kunipatia nafasi niweze kuchangia katika mswada ambao unahusu uangalizi na uwajibikaji kwenye gatuzi zetu. Mstahiki Spika, kwanza ningetaka kumpa kongole Senator Olegina wakiwa na Senator Kisang kwa kuzamia katika jambo hili na kwa weledi mkubwa na tajriba kutupatia mswada uliokuwa mbele yetu. Nadhania Mstahiki Spika ni kwa sababu wameona dhoruba na hali ya bahari, wakaamua kushona jarife na kutengeneza jahazi ili tuweze kufika kilindini. Kwa sababu kwa muda, Mstahiki Spika, katika mambo ya ushiriki wa umma katika gatuzi zetu imekuwa tu ni eka za mbunwasi, lakini imekuwa ifanyiki vilivyo. Wandi ya Kerugoya ni kwamba wakilishi wandi wanafanya ushiriki wa umma kivyao, alafu gavana anafanya ushiriki wa umma kivyake. Na katika hali zote zile fedha za umma huwa zinatumika. Lakini gavana pia huwa anachukua maoni ambayo yeye mwenyewe amesirikisha umma ndio anatumia kutengeneza bajeti. Juzi nadhani Mstahiki Spika uliona aibu iliyokuweko pale kwetu Kirinyaga, akina mama wakipigishwa vichwa ngomba na mapinde kukiwa na DJ, na kukija uhasibu utakuja kupata kwamba ile fedha ilitumika katika yale mambo yalikuwa yanafanywa pale itakuwa na nafasi kuonyeshana ya kwamba kulikuwa na ushiriki wa umma na haukuwa ni ushiriki wa umma. Mr. Speaker, ukiangalia sana kumekuwa na tatizo kwamba unapata barabara ambayo imetengenezwa na kera pia imeratibiwa kutengenezwa pia na county, na unapata ya kwamba fedha zimelipwa kwamba county ndio imeweza kutengeneza ile barabara, lakini imetengenezwa na serikali kuu. Lakini Mr. Speaker, kwa sababu nyumba inajulikana na mwenyeji sio mgeni, ili tuweze kungamua mbivu na mbichi, inabidi tuweze kupewa nafasi ya pia kutoa maoni yetu na kukaa katika ushiriki ambao unafanyika, ili tuweze kuelewa zaidi nini inaendelea. Kwa sababu ilivyo sahihi, ukiniambia seneta niende nikaombe ruhusa mwakilishi wandi kutoka wandi fulani ili niweze kukaa kutathmini yanayoendelea, sidhani itakuwa naweza kutoshea katika ile nafasi. Na kama ni gavana ya kuangalia wanaofanya, kwa sababu wakati wanayofanya hiyo maneno ya ushiriki ya umma ambao inakuanga ni gushi, hawatakangi pia kujulikana. Inafaa Mr. Speaker, nitapeana mfano wa seremara ambaye sana sana huwa anatumia misumari kushikanisha mbao. Utapata kwamba yule msumari ulio wima ndio ugongwa sana na nyundo. Ule msumari ambao uko kombo huwa unaachwa. Na hivyo ndio hivyo ilivyo siku ya leo kwamba seneta ambaye kuna msemo wa Kiswahili unasema kwamba ukiona maharagwe yameiva ujue makaa yameteketea. Mr. Speaker, wakati unaona dhoruba na kelele nyingi katika kaunti wakati tunauliza maswali, hiyo ni dalili ya kwamba maharagwe yameiva na makaa yameteketea. Na makaa yenyewe ni fedha za umma, kwa sababu fedha za umma lazima kuwe na zinafanywa uangalizi. Lazima watu wajibike wakati wanatumia fedha za umma. Na kwa hivyo njia mojawapo ya kupata majibu ya fedha zinazotumika kwanza ni kuhusisha wananchi waseme wanataka nini. Wakati wakisema wanataka nini, bajeti inayotumika ikitumika tuweze pia kuona ni nini imefanya. Kwa sasa maseneta wameachiwa kazi ya kama kupasua maiti. Na unajua mpasua maiti sio daktari. Kwa hivyo tunapofikiwa na zile ripoti kutoka kwa mkuu wa uhasibu, tunayoweza kufanya ni tuseme ni nini ilisababisha kifo cha ambacho kinatokea kwa fedha za umma. Lakini hatuwezi sema tuwezi kutimbu magonjwa ambayo yameua imeua zile fedha ambazo tunapatia county. Kwa hivyo ikiwepo kuna nafasi ya sisi kuwa pale kuhakikisha kwamba pia tunahusika, tutaweza kurekebisha mambo zingine kabla mambo hayajaweza kuharibika zaidi. Mr. Speaker, wakati tulikuwa tunafanya ushiriki wa umma kama wakilishi wandi pale nilipokuwa kiongozi wengi katika gatuzi la Kirinyaga, kulikuwa na tatizo moja ambalo lilikuwa linatokezea. Ni kwamba bajeti inayotoka kwa gavana ndio inapelekwa kushirikishwa kwa umma. Lakini sio kusema wameulizwa kwanza kwa mujibu wa sheria, ili wakuje waulizwe maswali waseme waulizwe kwanza alafu ndio gavana akuja na majibu. Inaanza kwamba bajeti inatengenezwa na gavana. Kuna mwingine alinunua mavi ya mbuzi akasema ni mbolea na akapeana. Na ukienda kwa uhasibu uwezi tena ukaenda ukahesabu chembe ya mavi ya mbuzi ili uweze kuweza kufanya gavana awajibike. Kwa hivyo inakuwa ni kusudia kwamba ile mambo inafanywa kusudi, kwa sababu gavana anajua kwamba uwezi enda pale tena ukaweza kufanya wajibika katika maneno ambayo wamefanya. Lakini kwa mujibu wa sheria inafaa wananchi waseme wanataka nini, gavana aende atengeneze kupitia waziri wa county wa fedha haweze kutengeneza, ni kupiga makofi na kuimba nyimbo ambazo hazina kiitikio. Unakuja kupata kwamba Mr. Speaker, gavana akisema anajenga uwanja ya helikopta kutua, wanapiga makofi tu. Lakini wale wananchi ambao wanafaa kuwa wanasema nini wanataka, wale hawana maji, hawana dawa hospitalini, hawana barabara, wana la kusema. Kwa sababu gani? Kwa sababu majukumu yote ya kushirikisha umma katika mchakato mzima kutengeneza bajeti umeachiwa gavana. Hiyo ndio sababu kubwa. Na kwa hivyo gavana hufanya mambo ambazo anajua ni rahisi kufanya kuliko kufanya mambo ambayo inatakikana kufanya. Mr. Speaker, nimetoka kaunti ambayo zaidi ya 99.9% ni wakulima. Lakini bajeti inaoenda katika kustawisha kilimo unapata ni duni, hata haijafika 5%. Sasa unakuja unajiuliza, ni akina nani hawa wanasema kwamba kujengwe magorofa? Ni akina nani hao wamesema kwamba wanataka kwenda barabarani kupiga vichwa ngomba na mapinde kuliko kusema wanataka vitu ambazo unaona waziwazi inafaa kufanywa. Kwa hivyo mimi ningesema kwamba chambilecho waenga akili ni nywele, kwamba Senator Olekina na Kisang wamefanya kazi nzuri kukuja na mswada ambao uko mbele yetu siku ya leo. Ningesema kwamba tuunge mkono bila kuangalia mambo mengi sana kando kando, kwa sababu Mr. Speaker, ukiniuliza mambo ambayo inaendelea leo Kirinyaga ni rahisi sana kukuelezea kama mkazi sahihi. Nikiwa pale mimi ndo nafaa kutengeneza ripoti ambayo nitaleta katika bunge la Seneti ili iweze kufikia kamati tofauti ili waweze kujadili, kwa sababu katika sheria mswada tulio nao hapa hakuna mahali ambao unasema kwamba ripoti itakayotoka kwenye gatuzi zetu isifike kwa kamati zetu za Seneti. Kwa hivyo Mr. Speaker, mimi naunga mkono na niseme ya kwamba sheria tulio nayo hapa iweze kufanyishwa kazi, na kama kuna mabadiliko kidogo iweze kufanywa, kwa sababu pia wakati nilikuwa mwenyekiti wa kamati ya ukulima tulikuwa pia tunafanya ushiriki wa umma, na ni vizuri niseme hivi kwa sababu najua wenzangu pia wamepatana na hili. Lakini jambo moja inafanya kamati pia za mbunge kuogopa sana kwenda kufanya ushiriki wa umma ni kwa sababu unapoenda akukuangi na utaratibu wote kuhakikisha ya kwamba wale ambao unaowakuta wako na maji ya kunywa ama wameangaliwa vilivyo. Kwa hivyo maseneta wengi, na ningeomba kama Senator Mbua angekuwa hapa kwa sababu tulienda naye Kitui na akaona hii kwamba unarudi mfukoni kuhakikisha kwamba umeangalia na kutatua maneno ambayo unapata wakati unazunguka ukifanya ushiriki kwa umma. Kwa hivyo hayo mengi na machache, kwa sababu sitaki kumaliza wakati wenzangu wanataka kuongea, naunga mkono na tuunge mkono hii sheria. Asante sana Mr. Speaker.
Senator for Vihiga, Senator Osotsi.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for this opportunity. Madam Speaker, from the onset, let me say that I want to congratulate the distinguished Senator for Narok for this very important bill. I know there are one or two issues that needs to be improved from the presentation by Senator Kamar and others, which the owner of this bill will try and improve. But all in all, this is a very necessary and important bill that we should all support. Madam Speaker, let me start by saying the matter of oversight in this country is a matter that probably should become a national debate, because we have had, rightly or wrongly, complaints from the public that the whole concept of oversight seems not to be helpful for this country. Madam Speaker, there are various reasons why that is so, and we must address it. And I remember very well our departed leader, Uhuru.Raila Odinga. These was one of his main concerns in public before he departed us, that is Parliament performing its oversight role well? And according to him, there is a problem. So even as we mourn Honorable Raila Odinga, we must reopen this debate, public debate, on what is the status of oversight in this country. Has it worked or not worked? Madam Speaker, when we talk about parliamentary oversight, we are talking about the oversight by the National Assembly, the oversight by the Senate, and the oversight by county assemblies. If you look at the National Assembly, Madam Speaker, where I served, the National Assembly, the committees, particularly the committee chairs, they are behaving like in those days, earlier days before the 2010 Constitution, they are behaving like assistant ministers. They act at the whims of the cabinet secretary. So what kind of oversight can you do if the chair of a parliamentary committee spends most of his time in the offices or government offices of cabinet secretaries? And he would even appear before the House to read responses, particularly to statements, by the cabinet secretary whom he is supposed to be oversighting. So I think it's important for us to relook at the whole concept of oversight. There is also the element of independence of legislature. For example, at the county assembly level, the county assemblies are not independent. Finance autonomy law that has given them some teeth. But the implementation is so slow, Madam Speaker. Something has to be done so that at least MCS start having teeth to bite in their respective counties. For the Senate, Madam Speaker, we are being let down by other supporting public institutions. Madam Speaker, for example, the EACC. How many reports, how many recommendations are we given out to EACC that have not been acted upon? The Director of Public Prosecution, Madam Speaker, how many recommendations have they not acted on, Madam Speaker? So I think all that provides fodder for the need for us to review the entire process of oversight in this country to ensure it works. Madam Speaker, coming to this bill, I would want the mover of this bill to also look at the roles of other people in our respective counties who perform the role of oversight. For example, Madam Speaker, if you go back to our counties, you will see a lot of young men who are doing an excellent job in our respective counties, either as bloggers, bringing up issues on matters of accountability in our counties. Others are in civil society, bringing up issues. I think there is need to protect these individuals who are doing a good job. I have so many of them in my county, and they do a good job, and I support them to do that job. And I think this law should look at how can we protect or enforce these people so that they do their work in a more structured manner and they are protected. Because some of them have even lost lives, Madam Speaker. Like you saw the case of Meru, where a blogger was murdered, and many others, Madam Speaker. We have to find a system in which we can protect these good citizens who want to participate in ensuring that there is accountability in our counties. Madam Speaker, role of our partners, Madam Speaker. For example, the Office of the Auditor General. How can they help us to enhance this law? Because they play an important role. They provide us the primary data that we need to be able to do our oversight well, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, even as I talk about the roles of other partners, particularly OAG, I think there is a need for us to overhaul our financial accountability system in this country. Madam Speaker, the financial system in this country, it is based on a Westminster system. Westminster, which we borrowed from United Kingdom, which starts with the authorization of expenditure by Parliament through the budget making process, and then it leads to production of financial statement at the end of the year by entities, and then auditing process as per the Public Audit Act, and then submission of audit report back to Parliament, and then Parliament through the committees of PAC and PIC to review those reports. Madam Speaker, this system has a lot of gaps. There are other better systems that this country should consider. For example, we have a judicial system. Other countries, for example, we happen to have visited Morocco, where they have what we call court of accounts, where entities appear in a judicial setup, they present their report, and a judgment is made there and there. If someone has stolen, a judgment is made there to put him in, or to fine him, or to basically take an action. Madam Speaker, when you do the audit review, you do a report, it is passed here, recommendations go to EACC, and no one bothers to act on them. The whole thing is full of gaps, which must be looked at so that we have a tighter financial accountability system that is going to protect our investment in this country. My public participation forum, and you public participation forum, and you have an alternative view. Madam Speaker, you are carried away a proper comprehensive legislation on the process of public participation. Madam Speaker, coming to this bill, the bill talks about having facilities for public participation. I want to agree with Senator Kajwang. That can we, instead of saying public participation facility, can we have multifunctional town halls in our areas so that they can do other things? When there is no public participation, they can be used for other functions as well. Good bill, but as I said, a few things here require panel beating, which I think we will be looking at it and making improvement where it is necessary. Lastly, Madam Speaker, the issue of implementation. Oversight, it is important, but oversight produces recommendations. How effective is our implementation mechanism in our respective houses of parliament to ensure that the recommendations that we make are implementable. So many things are recommended by our committees, but they are never implemented, Madam Speaker. In this House, this matter has come up many times. Some are of the school of thought that we do not need an implementation committee. Others are saying that we need to have implementation mechanism within our committees. Madam Speaker, I still hold that we need a substantive committee of the Senate to be dealing with matters of implementation, so that we have a structured way of following up on matters of implementation of the recommendations that we give in our various committees, so that we can follow up and act on those issues. Madam Speaker, with those few remarks, I want to support with amendments.
Senator Wakwabubi.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for the opportunity to contribute towards this bill. I want to begin by acclaiming the proponents of this bill, that is Senator Ledama and the co-sponsor, Kisang, because we want to wrap it at the essence of having public participation. And I would love to peg it to the Constitution. Like for Chapter 1 of the Constitution, it talks about the sovereignty of the people and the supremacy of the Constitution. Senator Ososi has presented something on the constitutional, what the Constitution envisages about public participation. And I would like to put the quotations right. For example, we have Article 118 that talks about public access and participation in Parliament. Article 196 talks about public participation in county assemblies. And Article 201 talks about public participation in financial matters. I want to substantiate much about these constitutional frameworks that guide this, because we all know that the crux of public participation as a tool is actually a core principle for government operations, entire legislative process. Public participation has been there, but in my own honest opinion, sometimes I could say that it has been haphazardly done, and therefore there is need for us maybe to have whatever the senators have presented to enable us to do a lot of oversight for the purpose of efficacy and performance. When we relate back to what Baba left us with, I think he had a very good public philosophy on devolution that was goal-oriented. So we also need to look at these senators to monitor the relevance, the effectiveness, the efficiency, or rather the efficacy of all that we have. Counties have got CIDPs, they have got fiscal strategy papers, and they have got well-documented papers in regard to projects, in regard to budget estimates, and even the items. They have what we refer to as itemized budgets. But sometimes, like Senator Methu pointed out, that there is a lot of movement of funds from one voted to another. That is violent, that is unconstitutional, and this tends to maybe curtail the progress of the projects that were intended for, and therefore also curtailing development for the people. So I want us to look at this, that public participation as a tool occasions for diverse audiences where they have to give input from different, maybe counties from different perspectives and from different sectors. Therefore, there is a need for us to engineer this tool of public participation, or rather fundamentally change the design to suit and maybe to offer what it is intended for.
Order, Senator Ledama Yokamkunji is a bit loud. Please consult in low tones.
So I want to conclude by saying that I support this bill, and the conflicts will always be there, especially if you have something objective, they will always be there. But let's look at the delivery point and the pinpoints with which we are operating. I submit.
Senator Omogeni.
Yes, thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I begin by first congratulating the two senators, Senator Ledama Olekina and Senator Kisang, for the thoughts they have put together, the County Oversight and Accountability Bill before this House, Madam Speaker. And Madam Speaker, I'm also privileged to be speaking when the distinguished Senator Professor Kamar is still in the House, because I listened carefully as she raised serious objections to this bill. Madam Speaker, I first want to inform the House that I've had also the privilege of reading through the memoranda of objects and reasons for this bill. And Madam Speaker, if you read in paragraph 3, the bill actually seeks to give effect to the constitutional provisions on oversight, on public participation, and on participatory democracy. And it cites Article 96, Article 174, and Article 21. Madam Speaker, for some of us who are lawyers, time and again, our courts of law have made many pronouncements on the importance of public participation. But by and large, it is us parliamentarians who have been a big letdown, Madam Speaker, to the public, because we have failed year after year to enact an enabling legislation that would give full effect to Article 10 of the Constitution that gives prominence to on public participation, on our governance issues, policy decision making, approval of important government appointees, etc., etc. So, Madam Speaker, we have been accorded an opportunity by these two distinguished senators to step in and fill the gaps, Madam Speaker. Because when you enact a legislation, you give a good framework that should guide our public entities and our public bodies on how to undertake an effective and meaningful public margin, how appreciated the citizens of this country will feel if we start budgeting for constructions of social halls, where budgets will be taken and the citizens will make their input before county assemblies or even our national parliament, Senate and National Assembly passes a legislation. Madam Speaker, if you look at the decisions that have come from, look at the decisions that have come from our courts, Madam Speaker. Public emancipation must be real, not illusionary. Saying real means that the people really must get an opportunity to make their input and for their voice to be heard. And then he says, if you don't understand, take public participation, the fact that into consideration in decision making, Madam Speaker, I'll propose that we be radical, we be more radical, and enact that the citizens of this country should do an actual vote on some of these decisions. And if you go to other jurisdictions, if you go to Switzerland, Madam Speaker, the concept of public participation is mentioned in their constitution, the way it's mentioned in our Kenyan constitution. But the way they give effect to that provision on public participation is by ensuring that the citizens themselves conduct a vote, Madam Speaker, on that law. If you want to pass a legislation and you go to seek the views of the people, if you have 100 people in the hall, you do a vote. You know, if more than 50% support, then you will say that that particular region supports that law. That's the only way we can have meaningful public participation. We saw what happened, and I have no intention of casting aspersions to our colleagues from the National Assembly, but we also what happened during public participation on the proposed constitutional amendment bill, Madam Speaker. It is impossible to say whether the people who appeared before those public participation sessions indeed supported the bill. Because at times you go and there is heckling. Those who support the bill are given an opportunity to speak. Those who are opposing are not given an opportunity to speak. So it's not meaningful. The only way, Madam Speaker, we can make it meaningful, and it was not for nothing that that provision was put in the Constitution. We borrowed it from other jurisdictions. And those jurisdictions include what I've mentioned, Switzerland, what happens in Australia. Madam Speaker, in Australia, there is just a principle. The way our Constitution, in Article 10, as a principle, that there will be public participation. But how to make it effective and meaningful is a mandate that has been reserved for us senators. Madam Speaker, if you go to Australia, if you want to amend the Constitution in Australia, Madam Speaker, you undertake a referendum, Madam Speaker, and the people vote on that law before it is enacted. If you're able to get majority, then it becomes law. If you don't, it's not law. So the only way we can involve the people, I'll be proposing, Senator Olekina, is that Section 4, not article, Section 4 should be, public view shall be taken into consideration in decision making through a so that we don't continue this business of alienating ourselves from the people. Madam Speaker, I've gone to my county the last 2 weekends, Madam Speaker, and there is hue and cry on the way Kenya Rural Roads Authority has budgeted construction of roads in our 47 counties. Because some counties have been excluded, including my own county of Nyamira. Not even our single tarmac is budgeted for by the National Assembly, Madam Speaker. Yet, the people of my county of Nyamira are also taxpayers, just like Uasin Gishu are, or the people of the county of Nandi, or the county of Kisumu, Madam Speaker. But if the public participation, the views of my people would have been taken into account, Madam Speaker, and then their input would have been heard, Madam Speaker. Remember what the late Prime Minister told us. about roadside pronouncements, Mr. Speaker. He said that is what this country was fighting when we were enacting this new constitution. We gave a lot of legislative power to Parliament. We gave immense powers to the National Assembly on budget-making process. But you find the same members of Parliament will go to a public rally and they start lamenting to the President that, oh, Your Excellency, help us with a road here. Yet that role is reserved for the National Assembly. So I really urge my colleagues to support this bill so that we can start giving effect to the provisions that are in our Constitution. Number two, Mr. Speaker, I've seen what my good friend has proposed, especially in terms of empowering our senators to undertake effective public participation in Section 18. Now, Mr. Speaker, I'm just wondering, that section says that the senator may employ such officers. Not surely, Senator Ledama. Look at the expansive county of Kakamega. Look at the expansive county of Meru. Look at your own county of Narok. How will 3 officers assist you in ensuring that you undertake effective oversight in a county? I will propose, Senator Ledama, that you don't be prescriptive. I'd rather that you delete the number 3 there and say that the senator may employ such officers, okay, as may be necessary for assisting them undertake their oversight role in counties. Because 3 officers may be useful for the senator of Lamu, but they will certainly not be helpful, Senator Ledama, for the expansive counties that I've mentioned. And then on that particular section, Section 18, subsection 5, I think we should not limit the role of public participation to be the mandate of the senator. What happens to regulations, proposed regulations from various ministries? I think let's not make it look like now we are shifting the obligation from the respective entities to us. Remember, the courts have said that the person who bears the responsibility of ensuring that there is effective public participation is the body that wants to benefit from the proposed policy or from the proposed legislation. So I'll propose that you consider amending that so that we leave that task to be with the respective bodies. Now, Madam Speaker, I want to support what the Senator for Kirinyaga, I think, said about budgeting making process and more so on aspects of the mandate that is reserved for our counties. Madam Speaker, if you read the Constitution of the Republic of Kenya, agriculture is a devolved function of our counties. Counties in the west of, do we say west of Rift Valley or the western part of Kenya, beginning from Bomet all the way. I don't know about Nandi, but at least I know from Bomet all the way. There has been a hue and cry on the low bonuses that were paid. But Madam Speaker, if you listen to county, it's called COG, the County of Council of Governors, COG, Council of Governors. Not even one statement has been released by these governors offering an explanation why farmers have been paid low bonuses. Policy issues from our CS Agriculture, no statement has been issued at all. My own governor, the governor of Nyamira, nobody has spoken on this matter, low bonuses to our farmers. And yet, if you go to the budget, Madam Speaker, agriculture is not given adequate budget allocation, Madam Speaker. So this, if you give the farmers an opportunity to meaningfully participate in budget making process, I'm sure they will put a very strong case, Madam Speaker, why there should be enhanced, where there should be an enhanced budget in agriculture, Madam Speaker. Because we used to be told when we were growing up that agriculture is the backbone of our economy. Madam Speaker, if it's the backbone of our economy, how do you pay a farmer tea bonus of 12 shillings when the cost he has used for picking the tea, the fertilizer, the tilling itself is more than the 12 shillings, meaning they are running at a loss, Madam Speaker. And then the government is mum, yet during the campaign, this matter was given a lot of prominence by His Excellency the President. He said he was going to fix agriculture. But now that agriculture is not working, now that there is a lot of pain for announcements from His Excellency the President, Madam Speaker, if we have effective public participation, Madam Speaker, the farmers themselves will have a good say on what policies, what steps should be taken in budget-making process, Madam Speaker, so that the farmer can also have a smile in their faces. The money they are getting cannot even enable them to pay SHA annually, the way it is being proposed by our government. And as I conclude, Madam Speaker, I'm very happy that finally counties that have never known social halls may finally have a benefit of having social halls, Madam Speaker. When we grew up, we used to hear about, is it Ofafa Jericho Hall in Nairobi. I'm looking forward to also seeing in Nyamira a social hall, Madam Speaker, where people can go and their facilities. The governor can budget for a cup of tea, juice, and we rename it after our own heroes. Maybe it should be George Anyona Hall in Nyamira, Madam Speaker. So the content, I say, Madam Speaker, are very progressive. It may have a few problems here and there, but Senator Professor Kamar, if we sit down and discuss, Madam Speaker, we can find a way of taking, taking on board the concerns of honorable senators. We enrich it, but at least let us demonstrate to our courts that we have been reading the decisions that have come from courts on this issue of public participation. And then we also make our oversight well anchored in legislation. At times, Madam Speaker, asking for documents from our respective counties becomes a quarrel between the senator and the governor. It's like you're committing a crime when you specifically want to get documents on some matters that relate to expenditure of public money. It's our taxes. My taxes end up going to the county of Nyamira, county of Kisumu, and other counties, Madam Speaker. So if you are spending public resources, you should to account, Madam Speaker, on how you have spent those resources. So with those many remarks, Madam Speaker, I fully support this bill, and I hope when it's finally enacted, the person who will be the biggest beneficiary will not be we senators, but the citizens of the Republic of Kenya, our bosses, the people, Madam Speaker, who have elected us to have this forum of speaking, as I'm doing this afternoon. I support and congratulations Senator Ledama and Senator Kisang. Thank you.
Senator Beatrice Ogola.
Thank you, Madam, me an opportunity. And from the word onset, I want to resonate with the colleagues that have been on the floor, and particularly because we have to enhance oversight and accountability in the counties for which the Senate is there, because by enhancing oversight and accountability, Madam Speaker, we will actually be strengthening the main role of the Senate. Madam Speaker, this oversight, I support this bill. One, that this bill will help to improve efficiency and effectiveness in the counties. That through this bill, we'll be promoting financial accountability. Madam Speaker, as I begin to support this bill, I also want to celebrate and not mourn the life of my fallen party leader, Jacom, Baba, the former Prime Minister, the great man that created more greatness even in his death. Madam Speaker, I say I want to celebrate him because this is a man who lived his life. Not many people reach 80 years old. As we mourn him, we celebrate some of the values he lived for, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, in the late of the life granted to Raila Amolo Odinga, our former Prime Minister, when you watch the later videos where he was speaking, he emphasized that we should always think as Kenyans before we think about ourselves. And I'm beginning to think, even as I was mourning, that we need now to celebrate this man rather than mourn him. Come to think of it, Madam Speaker, that contrary to our expectations, especially from communities we come from, Baba was very specific on the hours that he should take when he goes to rest. There is the talk of the 72 hours, that this is a man who wanted Kenyans to move on. That this is a man that wanted this republic to move on even as we bid bye to him. What more greatness can we observe in this man? And Madam Speaker, why I celebrate this man is that he preached that we should be united. He preached a unity of purpose. In his life, he preached to the people closer to him and by deeds on inclusivity, that this is a man who, given a chance, Baba thought about Kenya rather than think about the community from which he came from. Even when he had an opportunity by the governments which he supported to make appointments, we could only see a Baba that thought about all the communities in this republic. That reflected on his cabinet, if he were to have one, that he would actually have all communities in this republic be represented in his government. Madam Speaker, I celebrate a man who preached forgiveness, that he was able to work with both foes and allies. Madam Speaker, not many of us, after competitions, would even tolerate meeting their competitors. Come to think of it, Madam Speaker, a number of us cannot even accommodate people they imagine to be competing over very personal things. But this is a man who was able to take 2 steps back and say, Kenya is bigger than himself. He wanted to demonstrate that he had a cause in this country. Madam Speaker, I celebrate his tolerance and patience. I celebrate his standing out for the less privileged or standing out for the marginalized. No wonder in our party we talk about social justice. Madam Speaker, look at the constituency Baba insisted on representing in this republic. Baba is somebody who would be elected in any constituency, if not all in this country. But he yearly went to represent Kibra, Langata, the place where people think we have the downtrodden, because that was what Baba believed in. Madam Speaker, I celebrate this man, and I cry for the people who lost their lives during his funeral, because, Madam Speaker, no Kenyan needed to die, because Baba death was equivalent to so many deaths. And that is why I'm not mourning him, I'm only celebrating him. Madam Speaker, I remember as I celebrate this man, the lifelong tears that dripped from this man, all his adult life. Madam Speaker, what could be the symbol of these tears? That Baba lived his life crying for this republic. He was crying for justice. He was crying for all the downtrodden. But I'm happy, and I want to congratulate Kenyans for mourning Baba in a honorable way, that they came out in their thousands. Madam Speaker, I've never seen such crowds in my life. That they came out in their large numbers, but those were very peaceful crowds. So I celebrate him because this is a man who was honored in life, but more, Madam Speaker, honored even in death. We celebrate a patriot. I celebrate a nationalist. I celebrate a man who gave his life for the sake of Kenyans. Madam Speaker, I said he preached forgiveness by what he did. And I want to ask everybody in this republic that forgiveness is actually a strength and not a weakness. Weak people don't forgive. It is only the strong, Madam Speaker, that forgive. Madam Speaker, I know you want to guide me. As we celebrate this man, Madam Speaker, who gave his life to this republic, because, Madam Speaker, the family of Baba had long sacrificed him to this republic. But, Madam Speaker, let me come back to the bill. And I congratulate my leader, the minority whip, none other than the Senator of Narok, and the Senator Kipsang, for the County Oversight and Accountability Bill 2024. That as a Senate, we can only enhance county oversight. That we must strengthen oversight, but even as we do that, my leader, I do not think it is for lack of the physical facilities that public participation is not done well. And so, even as we focus on the infrastructure of getting physical halls, Madam Speaker, let us enhance the bill in more ways than just thinking of counties putting up social halls for public participation, because I can see even the abuse most of them will do. From here, everybody will be putting multi-billion halls. Let us focus on the actual oversight. Let us strengthen the Senate in oversighting counties. And Madam Speaker, this must also include members of the public. We call upon members of the public that other than the stipulated oversight authorities like the Senate, the public must also be watchful down where they are in doing oversight, even as we improve efficiency and effectiveness in the counties, Madam Speaker. Let us be more objective.
Honorable Senators, it is now 6:30 p.m. time to adjourn the Senate. Senator Ogola, you still have 9 minutes when we resume. The Senate therefore stands adjourned until tomorrow, Wednesday, 29th October 2025 at 9:30 a.m.
Wacha tuongee mambo sasa ya fake certificates. Virtual assets are real, certificates can be fake.
Imagine. So. According to the Public Service Commission, in an audit conducted across 331 government institutions, more than 2,000 Kenyans used fake academic and professional documents to get jobs in different ministries and parastatals.